Hey guys, this is Darius Czar, aka KomodoDragonJesus, making my second video for PokerVIP. The game plan today is very similar to the last one. We're going to be 4-tabling 100 no limit. This is a live video. I'm even playing while talking here. And we're just going to try to make good decisions and make some money. So jumping right into it, we got a king-queen suited that gets called by a recreational player in the small blind, who starts to lead out here. And I think king-queen is just a wonderful hand to start off with a raise. What do I want to do, like 11 or 12 here? Let's go 11. We should be doing quite well against whatever his leading range is. If we get 3-bet, it gets awkward. I'll likely just fold to the 3-bet. And he's going into the tank. Okay. I seem to have struck a nerve here. He decides to go for the fold. I mean, it's probably a good fold on his part, because we did have a pretty strong hand. And we get 3-bet when we have the ace-10. X-Friendly is actually a very active 3-better out of the blinds. I have no problem defending against him with a wide variety of hands, and this is going to be one of those hands. I think call's going to be better than 4-bet, so let's click the call button. See how we do. The flop isn't great. In fact, without a diamond on board, I'm probably just going to fold this flop. Pocket aces in the bottom right is just going to happily 3-bet. Okay, so he makes things awkward. He goes for like 1/3 pot, which means I have to defend an absurd amount of my range. Though frankly, on this texture, that's not really hard because of the amount of gut shots I'm going to have. I'm also going to have like 8-9, 9-10, a bunch of kings, and better ace-high. So this still kind of falls into the lower part of my range here, so I guess we fold it. We get a squeeze. It's actually a pretty small squeeze. I'm going to defend the pocket nines. And I'd expect to see a fold coming out of steel nuts. Yeah, there we go. So, unknown supernova player from Russia, if that's relevant, squeezes out the blinds. Get a decent flop. Had he bet, I think a nines has to continue here. But he checks, and so what kind of hands is he checking? I think anytime he has like Jack-10, like Queen Jack, those type of hands, I think he's barreling all those. So I guess there might be some ace-highs that he's checking. And some like 9s, 10s, Jacks, Queens. And I think against that range, I think we want to start off with a check back. Any card coming above 9 is, you know, typically not going to be very good. And I do think this is just going to be a fold on the turn. Alright, Jack-5 in the big blind. Sure, we're going to fold that one. I think it's a little too weak to defend against the 2.5x. And okay, blind versus blind. Let's raise up the a7 offsuit. Facing a 3-bet's just going to be fold, but looks like Benny lets me get away with that one. And 5-4 is just a little too weak. There are some players that I'm going to raise that against. Essentially, they just have to be really, really, really tight in the blinds. And at that point, we're going to be making our money off the amount that they fold rather than any post-flop play. But I don't think that's the case with these two guys, and I definitely don't have enough info about Oxford over here to make that kind of assumption. Peanut Man checks back. So I think we can remove a decent amount of high diamonds out of his range. So actually I'm going to take a stab here. We're still going to get like snap called by any diamond. Because even if he has, I think, the deuce of diamonds and we lead out there, he probably has to call. But it's a nice spot to put on a lot of pressure. Since he's never going to have the ace, he's very likely not going to have the queen or jack. Pocket queens, looks like this is going to be a good spot to throw in a squeeze. I'm going to make that 12. Aces is going to raise it up. And okay, that's pretty interesting. So we get Peanut Man to fold, but then we get a call out of the button. I do have the button marked as a recreational player, so I guess that's not really surprising. I'm actually just going to start off with a check, and as long as the board doesn't just get extremely ugly, like ace on the turn would be pretty bad. But as long as it stays relatively the same texture here, I'm just going to be check calling queens all the way down. The jack sucks. It's just another set of hands that are now ahead of the queens. Though I don't think that's a poor enough card for me to fold. He can jam here for 50 big blinds and I'll just be calling with the queens. Instead he goes for a check back. And I think my hand is best here very, very often. The question is, what do I get called by that's worse if I bet here? Any king X that's going to call me is ahead of me, any jack X that's going to call me is ahead of me. If he's feeling extra sticky, I guess he calls with like some ace X, or maybe an underpair, like fives. But I think overall it's a pretty good spot to check and just not fold when he bets, and we can pick off bluffs when he has stuff like 10-9. If he decides to turn any ace X into bluffs, okay, he had 10-9, all right. Didn't decide to bluff it. And wow, that is a nice flop for the ace king on the bottom left as well. Pocket eights in the big blind in the bottom left. I think I squeeze nines plus. That likely puts eight into a calling range, which I guess is fine. I don't think I'd really mind squeezing it there either. I've got CZTS who's thrown in the c-bet, and he likes to throw in a lot of c-bets, so I'm not really deterred by this. I will be calling the flop. Hey, we got a full house on the turn. That's it's decent. It's not an exceptionally good card. I think we have to value bet on this river, and that's really cool because we're gonna have some missed draws, and he should be calling us down fairly lightly. Now the question is sizing. If he's going to call down fairly light, then I should lean towards the large bet, so maybe something like 11 here. And we get called down by kings. That's yeah, that's certainly a hand that's going to be ahead of us. I'm thinking about if I was in his shoes, would I be betting the kings on the turn? You know, unless he expects me to call down with sevens for 3 streets, I think the check makes a lot of sense. Pocket queens, we got another spot where we're going to raise against Peanut Man. And blind versus blind, we're going to open up the ace-3 offsuit. And guys, that's a set of 5s. Yay. Okay. We're occasionally up against aces or kings, but pocket queens is really, really freaking strong, so we're going to shove it here. I'm not going to snap shove. I don't want to do any timing tell type thing. We're just going to time down a little there and then shove it all in. Looks like we caught him 4-bet bluffing there. Turn a full house with the pocket 5s. Great. Sizing wise here, it's really easy to get his entire stack in. I think I want to do it over 2 streets though. I could even overbet shove there because he's just gonna like snap call a lot of kings and every queen as well. We're up against full house. We got 1 out. We don't get it. Okay. Alright, that one's a little unfortunate, but that's just a cooler there. And, you know, I'm thankful it's a cooler for 40 big blinds rather than 100. We've got king to jack with a backdoor flush draw. I think on ace-7-3, a continuation bet will get enough folds for us to just be able to bet, maybe basically anything there. We'll be able to continuation bet a really wide range here. 7 and the 3 shouldn't hit his range very often at all. And guys, that's another set. Okay. I'm just going to keep on betting. We're going to go 3/4 pot, 3/4 pot. River looks like a blank. Now I'm definitely going to be betting the river. I mean, there's some merit in checking and letting him bluff some whiffed draws, but I think betting is going to be better overall. I'm actually contemplating an overbet here, though that really only maximizes against exactly king 10, which there should be 2 combos of. I think 3. I'm just gonna go 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. All the way, assuming we get snap called by a king there, which looks like that's the case. King queen. And let's call the 8s one more time. That's another decent flop for 8s. Okay, we're flopping well today. I certainly can't value bet the turn. I think it'd be a little odd to turn my 8s into a bluff. I'm very tempted to not fold here. I mean, we're losing to queens, and that's basically it, because he really shouldn't have many 9x. And okay, that's a nice river. I'm gonna check the ace-4 on the top left for a little bit of balance. Fagrello over here is quite aggressive. Now the question is, do I lead out or Or do I just check to him? I think we're going to do better with lead out. I don't know if he's going to bluff or continue to bluff anything he turned. I guess the play is like hope he has a queen here and just wants to be sticky with it. So after I check the ace-4 blind versus blind, I'm going to have a very hard time folding it. We relinquish the lead to this guy, and, well, he's going to try to win the pot. We're going to try to stop him here. Definitely check call flop, check call turn. That 4 on the river doesn't actually do anything for me because the pairs are the fives are paired, so I'm playing aces and 5s. And we actually got 2 bets out of 10-9, which seems like a little bit of an aggressive play on his part. But that's okay, because that's why I checked to him, because he's aggressive. Value betting the flop with the ace-4, just talking about the one we just won in the top left, is reasonable as well. You start to get into a little bit of trouble if you just continuation bet every single one of your aces, though, because then that means that anytime you check, well, you're essentially going to be check folding every single time because you never have an ace. Maybe you are check calling a 9, but the 9 can't really call down more than a couple streets. So if you're never check calling an ace there, it's kind of a recipe to just lose any time you check. Ace-4, I flopped a gut shot. Looks like it's bet into me and raised on the turn. I'm going to bow out of that one. Okay, King-Deuce is actually really tempting here. It's a pretty awful hand. But we're facing a mid-raise from the casual player out of the cutoff. I have a feeling it's going to be a little too weak. Though if he was looser, like so far he's playing 40 BPIP, which is the number directly to the left of his name right there. Over 90 hands. If he was playing something like 70, yeah, I wouldn't be considering folding. I would not be folding the King-Deuce. Though frankly, that'd probably be close either way. Okay, so Jack 4-3 flop. I think this is one I'm going to check back as well. I do have a significant amount of showdown with the ace-10. And if I start barreling this board, there really isn't a turn card other than exactly an ace, and I guess an ace that's not a heart that I'm particularly happy with. So I think it just makes a lot of sense to check this back. He goes for half pot, I guess slightly less than half pot. I'm gonna call. There's a few draws he can have. We're getting good pot odds, and we just get to the river, and now I got some options. I have the option of checking back ace-10, which will defeat any sort of missed draw, but will lose to any pair. Pairs of jacks aren't folding Pairs of sevens and better, frankly, probably aren't folding to my bet. And I don't think that pairs of threes and fours are really enough of his range for me to just like throw in a bet to try to get him to fold those. So let's take a shot on value. And okay, my mistake. He's playing a deuce three offsuit. Okay, all right. And we notice he bet less than half pot with the deuce three offsuit. So if that's something I see him do more frequently, I'll be very, very encouraged to raise him. He's basically doing something a lot of casual players do. You got a strong hand, you know, bet pot. You've got a weak hand, bet like a third pot or half pot or less than half pot, you know, depending on exactly what kind of hand strength it is. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, and it's probably useful to even throw in a note. First of all, we're going to write down that he defends just three offsuit. Okay. There we go. So now we know. And looks like Def Boy's getting it all in again. All right, I get 3-bet, sure. But this is a ridiculously small sizing, guys. The pot odds here are absurd. I'm not going to be folding Queen-Deuce to the 3-bet. I'm going to get into a lot of situations where I hate life post-flop if this guy's going to be aggressive, because I did call with, you know, a pretty crappy hand with the Queen-Deuce. But getting good pot odds, it just has to be done. And occasionally I'm going to get opportunities to get free cards like this. Wow, full house, that's wonderful. Peanut Man goes for a check. He actually does quite often check turns, so this can still be a variety of strong hands. I'll be betting against him, and I'll also be starting to bluff with the Queen-Deuce. I think on this texture, on a lot of rivers, we can take it down. I don't necessarily think the ace is one of them. Though, I got like two options here. I could just pot it, or I can concede to the fact that he's probably not going to be folding an ace, and that potting here might be spewing a lot of money. I think that's the direction that I'm going to go. I'm not thrilled with the 9-8 call because several of my outs are tainted, but I think since I'm in position, even if I don't actually hit a hand, I can do some fun stuff. But we do hit our hand, and he checks, which is nice. I'm definitely going to be betting here. On this texture, I definitely want to be betting on the large side, so let's do it. Gets a little gross if we're check raised, I guess. But frankly, I don't expect a lot of flushes to go for check raises there. I expected a lot of flushes to just go bet, bet, bet. Hello, hello, pocket aces, you beautiful, beautiful hand. Okay, so I'm taking a look at the blinds. We got one active squeezer. Though I don't think that's enough to entice me to flat call the aces pre-flop. Okay, Azad, what are you calling in the small blind? Probably a lot if we have the fishy guy in the big blind. Yeah, okay. So I was strongly considering betting this ace-8. And I think in a lot of heads-up scenarios, ace-high is going to have a significant amount of showdown value, which is great. In a lot of scenarios, heads up, we're also going to be able to, call a bet or two with ace high, or if we improve to a second pair type hand, we can put in some more money. Three-way, that gets a lot more difficult. But I did decide to check it back. When I do that, I don't think betting the turn is necessary. And less than half pot coming out on the river. That's good enough. It's another spot where, okay, suddenly he's betting less than half pot. Is this going to be a spot where I can just raise him? And if he's thinking about hands, I don't really think it's going to be that good of a spot because I'm never really going to have a top pair. I'm never going to have a flush after playing the hand so passively. King Jack defends against under the gun. Or I guess this is middle position because Peanut Man isn't in play. I'm going to be trying to get this one to showdown, though our showdown value isn't extravagant. That's the word I'm going to use, guys, extravagant. I'm also 3-bet bluffing the ace-5 against Peanut Man. I love 3-betting Peanut Man. Ooh, okay. He folds a lot to 3-bets. That's what I was trying to get at, but then we got cold 4-bet shipped on by the small blind. And I can't imagine that the odds are good enough for us to call the 33 bucks here. Peanutman's actually really thinking about this. I might have put him in a little bit of an awkward spot with some of his middle strength hands, but yeah, you guys go at it. Tens versus kings. Tens are not doing so hot. Be defending the king queen. Love the fact that he checks back. I think I can often bluff him off a better hand. I don't think he has very many worse hands in his range than king queen. So I'm going to start to bet here. Like we'll get a call on the turn from, you know, stuff like sevens, stuff like ace-high. But usually those hands will fold by the river. And I'm going to throw in a 3-bet with the pocket threes. Facing a cutoff opener, I think threes are going to fold to a 4-bet. And oh, I'm on a wait list. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. And nothing to do with the king-5 offsuit. When we get 3-bet, yeah, that's just not going to happen. But I'm going to continue. We're going to open up the king-9. Okay, we're just going to walk there. I was actually taking a quick peek at how often this player folded to 3-bet because I saw it was 0. Okay, so we know it's 0, but this is a situation where sample size obviously comes into play. For anybody using heads-up display, guys, you know, the smaller the sample size, the less relevant the information. So I just hovered over here. We saw that his folded 3-bet was 0 out of 1. So a sample size of 1 is basically nothing. If he had a fold to 3-bet of 0 over a significant sample size, then I would just be 3-betting him quite liberally in position, blind versus blind. So ace-10 on the queen-9-6 is okay. I would have been continuing against a c-bet. I don't think this would necessarily be all that great of a spot to check raise, even though we got like some cool backdoor stuff. If I check raise stuff like ace-10 here, then I'm almost certainly check raising just way too much. It's a spot where I'm going to have a lot of legitimate draws that I'm going to want to check raise, stuff like flush draws, stuff like straight draws, gut shots. And my value range is essentially going to be queen-9, pocket-9s, pocket-6s, which compared to the amount of bluffs that there could be if I start raising hands like this, it's just not going to go very well. If people ever figure that out, I'm just going to get called down super late and lose every time. But looks like we just got to showdown against another ace-high, and our kicker prevailed. Man, what a time to disconnect for Deaf Boy. Getting shoved on the river, and rip. Rest in peace, internet connection. Then again, Pokerstars seems to have like top-notch disconnect protection here, or whatever you want to call that. 240 seconds added, so we're likely not going to see a hand on this bottom right table for a while. Okay, just quickly folding a couple of crappy offsuit kings. 7-deuce. Unless I plan on raising any 2 cards against these guys, it's going to be a fold, and yep, judging by the fact that they don't fold enough, it's just going to be a fold on my part. Oh, this disconnect. I really feel bad for the guy. I mean, what if he has the nuts here? That's just an absurdly long extension, though. Alright. Back to my play. Opening up the ace-jack in middle position. We get a call coming out of the cutoff. If we face a squeeze from either of the blinds, I think ace-jack is going to be too weak to defend with a call, though it will potentially do okay as a 4-bet bluff. But that's not the case. Queen 3-3 flop. I'm going to start this one out with the continuation bet. There are a few queens in his range. There's stuff like ace-queen, king-queen, queen-jack. The fact that I have an ace blocker and a jack blocker is mildly significant there. We just get to run into those strong queens slightly less every time we have exactly ace-jack offsuit. Ooh, fun, fun, fun. We got pocket queens in the big blind against the game 2006. He's opening up in middle position. Take a quick peek at how often he actually raises in middle position. Looks like it's 23% of the time so far. I think I'm going to happily 3-bet against that. Okay, Jack 3 is a fold, the King 8 is a fold. Queen 8 will be a raise if it folds around to me, but looks like that's not the case. Looks like Steel Nuts is going to raise this one up. And okay, 5-10 is going to be a fold as well. Jack 8 offsuit, I think if it folds around to me, I can get away with raising as long as the button isn't a pain. Just gonna take a quick peek here. He's a little bit of a pain. I think I'm gonna try it anyways. We've got the recreational player in the blind, so so when you got a recreational player in the blinds, you tend to want to loosen up your ranges to try to get into as many pots with them as possible, especially when you're in position. If they're aggressive, sometimes this will happen and you gotta fold your jack 8, but I think that's absolutely fine. In fact, same goes for the queen 4 here. Let's loosen up a little bit to open that one up. Okay, blind versus blind, jack 8 is going to happily defend, get top pair, that's great. I think it's too weak to raise if he throws in a bet, but I would definitely be continuing with the call. He checks to me, I'm going to go for bet. The game 2006 starts off with a call pre-flop. I really don't think there are going to be many kings in his range, so I am going to actually start barreling with my jack 7 with the intent on continuing a few times. There will be several hands in his range, you know, stuff like 7s that might want to call once and then we'll fold to further action. It looks like he just wanted to check fold the flop, and I'm happy with that. Queen 4 is absolutely too weak to defend against the under the gun raise of Matrix Fire. But we're facing, I guess, slightly larger than a mid raise coming out from CZTS. Wondering if we can get away with defending Queen 4. I'm going to try, though. That might be on the loose side. And okay, so this is a really cool spot. He checks back on a board with a flush draw, and then the flush potentially, you know, if somebody had a flush draw, comes in. And this is just a great spot to start barreling. We're going to give him a little bit of money anytime he checks back medium or weak king on the flop. But otherwise, his range is just so capped that he's never really going to have a flush. He's never going to have a flopped 2 pair. With the exception of, I guess, pocket kings, he's never really going to have a set on the flop, and pocket kings is just 3 combos. If you consider like an entire button range, 3 combinations is basically nothing. So we can take that one down a lot. And it looks like people are just folding a lot to flop bets. Everybody's just so nitty tonight. So I happily defended the king 7 in the big blind facing min raise, but on this flop it looks like it's just going to be a check fold. I think 8-9 makes a really nice 3-bet bluff out of the small blind, so I'm going to throw that in against CZTS. And looks like there's at least one customer for pocket jacks. Peanut Man has a couple options. He can squeeze. I really wouldn't mind if he squeezed. But instead he goes for a call. That is, I mean, hey guys, we have an overpair. But that is not necessarily the board that I want to see. I'm still going to continuation bet. I actually think there's quite a bit of value in, well, one, getting called by worse, but two, just folding out random hands that have a spade, which Peanut Man might have a lot of, considering he called in the big blind, closing the action, getting good odds. I can't continue to bet on this turn. I mean, I can, but it's turning my jacks into a bluff, which seems a little silly. And then we're just obliterated on this river. It's very, very rare that Peanut Man will have a hand that either has no spade or doesn't have like a straight or a two pair or something. So showdown value with the jacks is not much. I mean, it would be like ace-5, like ace-5 of diamonds, something like that. But on the other hand, we don't get a spade to fold, which sucks. And I can't even represent like any of the high spades because I check back the turn. Okay, I think I checked this one back, though frankly I do expect to lose most of the time. And that's a set of fives. Okay. Yeah, I think the 5-4 is going to be a fold basically regardless of action, unless there's a limp. People can always limp. Hey, or I win the pot, yay! Ace-Jack offsuit for me is a fold against the under-the-gun raise, though Ace-Jack suited will happily be played. Gonna take a quick peek at under-the-gun's opening range. Ugh. So tight, 12%. Frankly, we could still 3-bet here. I do like calling, though. Let's start off with a call with the ace-queen. So lets us get squeezed by some of the blinds, which frankly I wouldn't feel all that bad about because ace-queen is still a very, very strong hand. Steel Nuts is very rarely going to hit this board super hard. I think his small blind overcalling range is just going to be very, very pair heavy. And I think against that range we do excellent. Okay, now betting and checking are both options. Let's consider what I want to do here. CZT actually isn't going to check very many strong hands. I do expect to have the best hand here a majority of the time. And I think I do well against a check calling range. I'm actually going to bet. Oh, hello, full house. So steel nut's overcalled, and I made an assumption, his range is very pair heavy. I still think, that's a fair assumption, but when he check calls this flop, of course, that's not the part of his range that we're up against. So then we get into broadways, the Jack-10 type hands, the Queen-Jack, the King-Queen. Potentially stuff like Ace-10, Ace-Jack, Ace-Queen even, maybe. I do think I want to check back. There are several hands in that range that we're actually ahead of, but those hands won't necessarily continue calling down. And now two pair on the river. Two pair on the river. So for him to bluff catch here, he's going to need two pair, which I guess like King Queen. Not sure if he has King 10, Queen 10, an Ace 10. Okay, I'm going to check this one back though. Oh, he had the flush on the river, that sneaky, sneaky guy. Guys, I'm going to raise a full house on the turn. Looks like he just snap folds to that one. I am going to keep betting the Queen-Jack. There's absolute merit to pot controlling it, but I would rather not really give away too many free cards on the triple spade board. And I think value bet should do fairly nice. We get a straight on the river, which naturally is nice, guys. We're still potentially up against flushes. I'm going to be value betting. I guess this is a bet fold. As I don't necessarily expect to get bluffed on the river super often. I don't expect straights to check raise the river, especially when I have an uncapped range that includes many flushes. And so pocket jacks called pre-flop against Memento Mori. When checked to, I'm going to start this one off with a bet. Against steel nuts, I want to pot control at least one street. And I think that's actually going to be the river. I think I'm going to bet flop, bet turn. And I'm also going to half pot the turn with the pocket jacks with the intent of checking back the river a majority of the time, because I don't necessarily think we get called 3 times by worse. Yeah, we got a couple streets out of ace-9, that's lovely. And I am going to now check the river with the ace-jack. My kicker is counterfeit. Steel nuts does have one move in his arsenal, which is to shove. But against a shove, I think it's often going to be an easy fold, since all his ace-X are going to want to do exactly what he just did there, which is check back, since they don't really get value out of worse, since they're all chopping kickers and they have a significant amount of showdown value. Okay, guys, I'm going to start to wrap it up here. I guess this jacks and sevens will be the last hands of the video. CZTS really thinking about his play on the button. If he back raises here, oh, he did back raise. Wow. Yeah, I mean, Jax is close enough to the top of my range that this is just going to be a shove, I think. I think the game would often 4-bet some of his value hands as well. So yeah, I guess end it with a bang. And it's not necessarily the bang we were looking for. Got 2 outs and don't actually hit any of them. Rip money. 7s are just going to check fold on this board. And guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching. This is the second video I've made, so just like the first one, any comments you guys have, any feedback is greatly appreciated. Things you like, things you didn't like, I'd like to hear it all. I look forward to making my next video here, and I guess once again, this is Darius Vita, aka KomodoDragonJesus, making a video for PokerVIP.com. Thanks so much for watching.